Hi everyone, YNK here, and I'm joined with Zeus and Skullz for an exclusive interview slash podcast slash just talk here at eNat Bootcamp, which you guys will only see once their new team is announced. But we're recording this, 23rd of November today. So back to Team Liquid, Zeus.
Yeah, back to my American origins, I guess.
How did that happen? How did it come to that? Talk us through a little bit.
For me, literally out of nowhere, I was, again, semi-retired from the Fluxo thing, bad experience, and got a message like, yo, what are you doing? I had some offers going on, but they were all over the place. Like, Loud Valorant was looking at me, things like that, but I'm like, not looking into anything. And then Liquid messaged me, is like, would you be interested? I'm like, yes, doesn't matter the team, let's do it. Love Liquid as an org. And from there, just went on. It was pretty simple like that.
All right, and how about you, Skullz? Were you surprised when the call came in? Was that your idea, Zeus, or how did that go through?
Our team, we made a list, I think, of 42 people that we scaled on who would be first, who would be 42nd.
42 people.
Yeah, and we had our cutoff line. Between those 42, we're like, anything above this, we'd rather maintain as we are. Anything above is what we're shooting for. So there were a few names that we went after, but he was actually rated higher on the list than most people would imagine.
So yeah, basically it's very similar to what Zeus said right now. I was being transferred to another team in Brazil at the moment, and Zeus just messaged me and he called me as well and told me about what's going on, and I was really interested, and at the same moment I just refused the offer that I had and just went all in.
Conviction.
Yeah, I think it was strange, right? Because I remember at Pro League, the first one this year, right? You with Pain, and you guys were the surprise package maybe of the tournament, right? Played some really good CS, beat some good teams, made it into the playoffs, and then after that it was everything went downhill, where it looked like you might even be the best Brazilian team really at the moment. So what happened with that, team kinda, or basically why couldn't you build on that result at Pro League?
I believe that we were playing our best Counter-Strike at Pro League and probably at the RMR also at that point. And we were a little bit tired. I think I can say that because we were the only team in Brazil that didn't went back home to take a little rest at the first 6 months. And basically our last event wasn't that great also because we were planning on doing some changes inside the team, and I think we didn't have enough time in the lineup to show our true potential, I think.
Yeah, and how was it for you when you got the call to go to an international English speaking team, right? Was that something that you were already thinking about, maybe not so soon, or was it just came out of nowhere and then you took it from there?
It was something that I always think about because I have my English, and at some point I was going to prepare myself to that offer to come, but I wasn't expecting to happen so quickly. My first plan was to, I don't know, maybe play some events on Brazilian teams and try my best to be the best. And I'm just thankful that this opportunity came way sooner than I expected, and I'm only I can't wait to give my all here.
Zeus, tell me a little bit about this whole lineup now. You have Ross back in Team Liquid. You have obviously NAF extended the contract. You have Cadian, which is another big one, right? That people are talking about. So how did the whole roster come together, and especially when it comes to Cadian, right, being the big, character that he is and the big leader, and you as a coach, how do you imagine that? Did you have some conversation already how all that is going to work out?
Yeah, so during that initial conversation with me, this was not the lineup that we were not shooting for. I guess they kind of kept it a little under wraps because it was such a big move. As always, the less people that know, the better, or more likely to happen. So when I was agreeing to join, I was hearing stuff of going back to its NA roots. So we were looking at players from EG that were coming out, OOC, everything like that, how we'd structure that. But then when they let me into the plans, Cadian was a big part of it because they wanted an IGL, also an opera that could lead, but mostly from the IGL perspective and someone with that charisma and character to actually lead, right? The in-game leader, not necessarily only from the strategic part. And so from that, we started building. And from Cadian's point of view, Russ was a gigantic piece. I think, I don't know exactly when or how the conversation started, but I'd say 2 weeks in from our conversation, the Russ point was already starting to solidify itself way before Sydney or anything like that. He wasn't happy with some of the things, and he has big roots with Liquid, right? And so how we were looking at everything is we were trying to moneyball, I guess is the best term, the best team possible. My expertise would be a lot on the EQ level of actually understanding personalities, how to deal with each other, what kind of personalities would work together. I have experience working with Russ, with Keith, and everything like that. I knew Merrick's, which is Yakinder for those who don't know, and Casper. I just had very brief experiences, but in our conversations, these personalities started to mesh well. And we have Jay, our analyst, as well, trying to moneyball the statistical side inside the server of which roles fit in terms of efficiency. He has an entire process. So it really was the best way that I can describe how I view it is this has been the best moneyball team possible in terms of functions and roles which we should be doing inside the server and personalities, as well as the support staff that we have behind with myself, Joke, and we have Edward, which will be announced as well, hopefully by the time that this comes out.
If not, we'll edit it out.
And Jay, which is our analyst, which is just a monster, and he's a machine in terms of just analyzing data and filtering. So the way that I'm looking at it is exactly that. It's a moneyball team in terms of the emotional and the in-game, which is why it made so much sense, and we're glad it worked out.
I think you're downplaying it a little bit. The last lineup was the Moneyball lineup, I feel like, with Rainmaker and Patsy trying to make all that work. Here, you have a lot of already experienced, proven, veteran players, but also, as you said, big personality. So, skullz, how does that work out for you, trying to fit in as a guy that has less experience? Obviously, I think everyone can agree that you've shown a lot of talent, but coming into this lineup, how do you feel about your spot on the team?
I feel good about it because I met the guys already, and they all are trusting me a lot and giving me space to just be myself, and that's something that I'm really glad about. And that's basically it. I just have to be myself here. I am confident about myself, and I'm just hoping for the best here. Just be myself.
Yeah, I think also, here we have a couple of jerseys and stuff. This is probably our favorite.
Keep it on that side.
Good times. But where am I going with this? With the MIBR jersey, I was their coach, and you came after me when they went full
swept you under
full Brazilian. But obviously, that's where you guys, early on with that Luminosity SK lineup had a lot of success and everything. Were you following CS at the time, skullz? Were you already playing? Was that something, where hey, I can be where those...
story.
Yeah, it is. I remember when I was, I don't know, maybe 15, I think. I was at the hospital with my sister because she had something at the time. And I was watching a lot of Counter-Strike, streamers and stuff. And I remember there was a game playing, it was them at the MLG major. And I just watched, and I couldn't believe.
Which match was it?
It was the Liquid, I guess.
Of course.
Mirage, actually, the one that Cold Zero made the play.
Jumping from Cold.
It was surreal to me that we're Brazilians on that level in the game, and I didn't know that existed because when I was growing up, I was play Xbox or PlayStation. I never played on my computer, so that was very new to me. And
so you haven't played Counter-Strike yet? When you saw that?
Yeah, I think at that time I started playing it, but I didn't like it because I was very used to Call of Duty. And in Call of Duty you can ADS, and in Counter-Strike you couldn't, so I didn't like it very well. So after a while I went back to Counter-Strike and played with my friends, and then I started to love it. And yeah, so that's what gave me my fire.
That's great.
First experience was watching us in literally the most historic highlight of Counter-Strike.
And also at your high. Right. After that, probably best to start following some other teams. But Zews, tell me a little bit about, first you had that little break. Yeah. You also had some health problems. Had a heart attack. So
things.
Why in God's name would you come and try to give yourself another one by coming back to coaching?
Many reasons. I think first and foremost, it isn't sucking up. I do love Liquid. Out of everyone remembers me from the LG and SK days, and at least from the Brazil side of things, right? Where I feel I had my best work and my most growth, and not only that, the biggest respect for how I like to work with things was in Liquid. So I used to say this, there were only 3 teams that I'd come back to out of retirement for officially, which would have been Liquid, but I thought that door was closed because I had left them in the highest peak to join MIBR. G2 for our friend Nicola, I love him and I've always wanted to play with him and everything like that. And FaZe for Russ, right? So Russ, I consider so it was very limited. So I wasn't planning on returning, but at the same time, there were a few things that changed. So after the heart attack, of course, like near death situation, you do reevaluate a little bit of
your life choices.
Yeah. So how was it heading? I fixed a bunch of things that I needed to get right with me, but also Oplano called me to just 1 week, like, you're not going to be able to be behind us, but can you help us for this 1 week? And I saw something there that I loved, which was that passion, like pure passion in its most pure form that I could see. And that rekindled a little bit of what I really wanted to do. So I had the Fluxo stint, which I chose to be back, but then I also remembered the bad side of esports that I didn't like, which funnily enough wasn't the travel or the hard work, but it was sometimes working with hard personalities or like rough-minded people and going through things where you know something should be done one way and getting told by not lesser people, but like less experienced people that no, it should be another way, and then being proven right, it really gets down on you. So I was ready to retire again. I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna go through it. But like I said, with Liquid, I know that they like to work how I believe, and they give me the freedom to work the things that I believe. It's kind of like Google, put up or shut up. They give you the freedom. If you could bring in the results, you stay and you go forward. If you don't, that's it, right? So that was it for me. So my passion was a little sparked again, opportunity arise. There was a bunch of elements that started to fall into place to make me go here after the heart attack, but I don't think I'm gonna have another one. I hope not.
Wait till you start playing some games again. No, but I think it's interesting because it is one of the biggest challenges as a coach is sort of putting your stamp on things and kind of getting players to buy in to whatever it is, the philosophy, whether it's about the in-game stuff or more out of the game stuff. So does that worry you at all? Because I mean, I look at your team, you have Cadian, obviously a huge personality, and he's the in-game leader. You have Yakindar, who seems to also have a big ego, but not in a necessarily bad way, and he just tried in-game leading himself, right? You have someone like Russ, who also, I think he's a little bit lower than Marek's in that regard, but also a guy who's accomplished a lot and is a veteran player even at his young age, right? And on top of that, you have Naf, who's more of a quiet, laid-back guy. He's chill, but still, you know. So I feel like you're gonna have a lot of work with juggling all those guys, and sort of on top of all of that, you also have your way of thinking when it comes to the game and doing things.
I'm a strong personality as well, or at least very opinionated. But to be honest, I'm not that frightened because I think we have a lot of experience, and a lot of these players have accomplished things, being number one in the world, Grand Slams, major trophies, and just all kinds of achievements. But none of us are at that point where it's right now. Maybe you could say that for Russ right now, coming from FaZe, right? They won 3 events, they're doing amazing, but everyone's at a point in their career where they're susceptible to change, and things seem to have evolved a lot in esports. In the 2.5 years that I was retired, I always used to say like 3 months in esports or in CS is 1 year. Well, 2.5 years out, it's like a 10-year evolution that I'm seeing in terms of how open people are to approaching the mental side of just being willing to recognize their flaws and move forward. Like I used to have, in all transparency, you've been a coach. I had to work with children before, right? That's kind of how it was. And I feel like that's not the case now. I'm starting to work with athletes that are prepared to evolve. It doesn't mean they're going to be perfect, but I feel we have the tools and the right mindset and at the right stage in the careers to actually make it work. So while we're going to have problems, I'm not too scared of it, no.
Yeah, is that what your expectations are, skullz, as well, from this team?
Yeah, exactly the same. Like, they all accomplished a lot of things inside the game, and I am willing to conquer like even more things in the future. So I'm just glad I'm part of this group.
You have to push them a little bit, you know, like for you, it's
he has to be the fire.
He has a little bit maybe more hunger, right? So going to push everyone else. But I think I agree. I think skullz, because we got the opportunity, when you guys came in the first time,
Took us to a nice dinner.
for some proper Serbian food. So I got to know, to actually talk to skullz for the first time, like properly in a chill environment.
What were your initial reactions?
I was impressed. I have to say I was impressed. And initially my idea was just for you and me to shoot the shit because, I didn't really know him that well. And I didn't want to just burden him with doing media or stuff or whatever, but I was so impressed that I felt like I wanted to give him a platform so other people can see what I saw, which is what you just talked about, is this newer generation of players that are just so understanding of how they need to behave themselves and conduct themselves really, and how they need to approach playing and practicing and being part of a team in order to have success, right? Where there's like really it's never about me, I want to do this. I need to play this role, that. Of course, you're a certain type of a player and you have things that you like to do. And if they want the most out of you, you should be allowed to do those things, right? But it's not about that, I have to have a good game for me to be happy. It's all about the team. So yeah, I think very mature, right?
Mature is the word. It's a lot different than what we were used to experiencing. It was a lot of good times before, and there were the high points, and I guess it is a learning curve for the entire industry, not just for the teams that we're a part of, right? But whereas we had to pave the road kind of per se, now they had role models looked up to, and thankfully in what comes out is normally the better parts of the role models, right?
Well, I think even specifically, right, we were both on the same team pretty much one after the other, right? So I could tell when I was on skate that the professionalism needs to go up. But the problem is you come into a team where there's guys who won 2 majors, been the best team in the world, doing things in a certain way, right? So getting them to change, one of the most common responses is, well, we were the best. Like, we didn't have to do this when we won the MLG Columbus major. I'm like, yeah, bro, that was 2.5 years ago.
Even a different game now.
Last 3 tournaments, you couldn't make the playoffs. So maybe we can meet in the middle, but I think that's how it starts. You look at Astralis, they were one of the first ones to implement a lot of that stuff. And then obviously
copy.
Whoever is at the top, you copy what they're doing. And luckily at this point, step by step, we got to a point where also players have a lot less say into what goes on in the team and in the lineup, and are just focused on playing, which I feel like how it needs to be.
I believe so as well. We come from a time where you could tell a player not to, you should probably go to the gym, not eat as many cheeseburgers, stop drinking Coke all the time. They're like, no, I do this is how I win. It's like, fair enough. But at the same time, it's like, are you going to argue against, you should at least try to be a little better? Yes, they'd argue that they should.
Yeah, no, it's like just because, a result, you can't justify the means because of you had a good result, right? That doesn't mean this helped you. Yeah. It might have hurt you, but you still won. It's
could have been a little better.
Like making a poor play and it works. Well, just because it worked, you're
not the best. Yeah,
you can't assimilate the result to every process that you do. If it only when you win is the process right, then you're screwed. That's gonna be such fallible.
Then you don't really know what you're doing. But skullz, this is also for you the first time really from when CS2 came out that you're in Europe, playing it and playing FPL and whatnot. So how's that been?
It's been pretty awesome. I was talking to zews yesterday and the day before. The game is in a really good state right now. I am really enjoying playing and watching the game. So I'm watching all the demos that I can and creating my own stuff also and playing a lot basically. And also with the guys in the team.
Yeah, how has been the experience of playing with the boys so far? What's your initial reactions?
It is pretty amazing, man. Really, it's awesome. It's something that I never imagined that would happen someday. Probably one day, yeah. But it's pretty amazing to be playing with them.
Yeah, I think also a lot of people are complaining. Obviously, the game this, the game that. Obviously, it's getting updated. It's getting better and whatnot. But how difficult is it, in Brazil, really, to improve and get better? Is it because Brazil has a big scene?
It does, and actually, now with CS2 coming up, I think it's the opportunity that we should have now because everyone's in the same place. So whoever practices the most and practice the best way possible is going to be the best team in Brazil. And things are really level up back there. But it's not like as good as here in Europe, because all the best team is here and all the best like practice you only find here.
I know a lot of people, especially after the story about MLG and whatnot, would love to know, is there a player when you were coming up that you would look up to from either the Brazilian scene or just in general, that you're like, hey, I want to play like that guy?
At the beginning, like when I was watching just a bunch of streamers playing Counter-Strike, I was really a huge fan of Shroud. But yeah, after I know like the competitive scene, I was and I am like still a huge Russ fan. So it is like, again, awesome to be part of.
Did you tell him that?
Yeah, I did.
What was his response?
Yeah, he was just like, I don't know, laughing. Yeah, but it was great, man. And it's like, again, amazing to be part of this.
So, do you guys have any tournaments this year?
This year, no.
So, yeah.
So for the first time, we actually have a decent roadway or roadmap to preparation.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. That's what I wanted to ask you about next.
So this might sound a little conceited, but what we're trying to do is create what we and I believe should be the new standard for Counter-Strike or esports teams in terms of preparation. So the first thing we're doing as a team is we're having a 5-day retreat away from computers, away from everything, with Edward, our psychologist. An entire plan has been brought up to literally set the foundation of how we want to handle ourselves as a team. What our mentality will be, of course, team bonding activities, getting all off the chest from the get-go, coming out from a neutral place and everything like that, having techniques in how to deal with pressure and how to deal with everything, and not focusing just on the moment of being accountable for it. I think we have like 50 points that we want to touch upon. And then we're going to have around a 2-week boot camp of actual just practicing in game, where we're able to focus on the maps and focus on the way to play, understand how Casper wants to lead this team, and giving him all the tools and the resources and space to lead this team. So our first tournament will actually just be the RMR open qualifier or closed, depending on how the rankings and everything goes with this with the switch. I think we're getting a few details closed out, but so we pretend to just set a really well set and a really well created environment and starting point, so that every time that we're moving forward, we can fall back on staying on track. So we want to do something that's efficient for a long-term plan, while being able to compete on the immediate or short term for trophies. We don't want to be that team that says, oh, we have to wait 1 year to start getting. No, we know the pieces we have. We have to start now, but the problem is never just starting to win normally for teams. It's maintaining at the top, which is why Astralis, as you mentioned, was so good.
And what is it, that time frame, right? What's it looking like?
That's hard to predict. We really do hope that within our first tournaments, we do well. Like, I'm not going to say we're going to win, but I think that any team that's making playoffs, and I always had a rule for myself, or at least a thought process, where semifinals, you have to do semifinals to, if you want to be a world champion team, you have to consistently reach semifinals. That's it. If you reach 13 semifinals in the year at least, out of at least half of those, you should be winning, going to the final. And if you win half of those, you have three major trophies, not necessarily the major, but like, let's say you win a Katowice, you win a Star Series, you win a Blast. Those are big titles against when you're playing the best teams in the world. And yes, you can be a Furia, something like that, who occasionally makes it there, but they prove the point where if you only occasionally making it, it's really hard for you to actually break that bubble and become the tournament favorites, or someone who's consistently winning.
Yeah, the consistency is the secret, right? Like,
yeah, for sure. So I think that's it. Just for us, I don't know if from the get-go we'll be able to do it, but I think we have the talent and potential for it. I do believe we need a little bit of time to actually get the pieces understanding, because right now everything on theory and paper is amazing, but we're going to run into the problems that happen either with personalities or in-game what we didn't moneyball or didn't account for not fitting. So we're going to need a little bit of time to tweak, but I don't expect it to be 6 to 8 months.
How was it for you though, obviously with CS2, right? Some gimmicks, obviously nading the smokes and whatnot, but just in general, some of the map changes, the dynamics of it, right? You're excited about testing out some new stuff?
I'll say for me, yes. I think Fallen pointed this out on Twitter. I think he was wrong in one part, but it is the in-game part that I love the most, is creating new metas. That's what I feel I'm the best at. I'm really good at the creative part of understanding new things. And I convinced myself, at least in theory, that was true, because the day that Inferno came out, I think I mentioned to you this at the restaurant, the day that Inferno came out, I was live streaming. within the first hour, I found that smoke that Robs did, and everyone's like, "Oh, destroyed Sydney," and I'm just dumbfounded how no one found a counter for that in the beginning, because I literally have it on my VOD like from the first hour of what I'm doing. So I'm like,
is this you plugging in your Twitch channel? Or?
Yeah, it's on my. So I think that my mind still works. So I'm excited for the ability to create new metas and just tweak and turn everything. But I think, as always, CS is cyclical, right? So I lived almost the entirety of CS:GO at a high level, if you just consider the last 2.5 years. So now it's about meshing those old ideas with some new little details, be it breaking a smoke or new timings, or specifically with no skybox. I think that's amazing. I think that's going to be something that's so fun. So for me, that's it. But in playing, I think he probably has more experience now already.
Yeah, I believe that the whole game like is still the same, but of course you, at this state that we are right now, you can like create your own stuff, and basically who creates it first like has a little bit of advantage. So it is really beneficial right now to be this nerdy kid, and that's just it. Like,
I'm sure you love the fact that the op isn't as strong.
Yeah, as a rifle, yeah, I did.
Yeah, I think also, you know, one of the things, I guess you guys can both give me an answer to this question, is Brazil, right? There's always so much talent in the scene, but we, ever since the old, you know, the SK and then that lineup, we really haven't had a team break through to become number one or win really some of the big trophies. What do you think is like the main reason for that?
That's a hard question, because probably, I don't know, the mentalities that the players have, because it's hard to have a player that doesn't have like that high of an ego that can truly evolve as a player and as a person. So in a long-term team, that's why I think Brazil, it's really lacking.
I think, of course, it's going to be an entire myriad of different little things that happen, but a few of the big ones. Ego is one of them, but I think also hunger, in a sense, right? We as a team, when we were LG, SK, or MIBR, we never passed down the knowledge of how we did it, even if an entry level. So people kind of had to figure out on their own, or they had to watch on streams and try to conclude for themselves what they thought we were doing. And even like if you take an in-game example, if you copy something straight off the bat, it doesn't mean you understand how you're supposed to do it or how we got to that thought process. So I think teams, a lot of players, not just teams, aren't as hungry anymore. Salaries are higher in Brazil now. We didn't have that like when we won the first majors. Yes, it was long ago, but we had to fight for our lives. And sometimes if people have to fight for their lives, they're going to put in that extra work. I have an example, which is like, if I said, you have to make $1 million this year, what's the chances? You're probably going to reply aloud. It's like 5%, 10%, something like that. Well, I said, what if everyone in your family depended on it? Like if you don't make it within that first year, those people will starve. Yeah, the chances go up to 50, 60, 70, 80. So the time frame didn't change. It's your passion, right? It's your hunger for it. And also, I do feel that we're set on our old habits. Oh, we should play like this. We should play like that. You have to innovate for yourself and figure out what other people are doing, create your own style.
Exactly.
But it's not like what I feel before, like CS used to be one way or another. No, nowadays it's a mix of all the different styles. You have to know how to play reactive. You have to know how to play a strat. You have to know how to play the theoretical 3v1s where you don't lose those situations. But if you're only doing one way, you're predictable. And that's kind of what I feel happens in general. And the other part is training outside of Brazil. Yeah, the practice there isn't as good. So if it isn't, boot camp in Europe for 6 months or a year, man. You can't expect to be the best and not make the sacrifices that the best have made.
Yeah, I think objectively, I can see how it's difficult, right? Because you know, so many people take it for granted. Oh yeah, just move to NA. First it was NA for all Brazilian teams, or you know, now it's like come to Europe and boot camp.
Come here to the boot camp. Stay 6 months here. See, I guarantee you're gonna get better. There's no way.
I spent a lot of time in Mexico this year actually, and like it wasn't really productive. It's a waste of time, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's just some people take it for granted that, you know, you still have to be away from your friends and your family. You still have to live in a lot of places in sort of stay at a hotel or something, which this is what people also maybe don't, no matter how nice the hotel is, it's still a hotel. And then you go to a tournament, it's a hotel and as well, and it gets a little bit tiresome. So sometimes like having, you know, an apartment or something can really help with your situation.
You can do things to mitigate the quality of life.
But the point being is like you also have a time frame in which you can, you know, you're going to be a professional Counter-Strike player, right? And perhaps even to be like at the peak of your career lasts for a couple of years. So it feels like, yeah, it's tough. But I mean, even if you're playing football, you have to go to whatever. You have to go to the UK. It's even worse, you know. But I feel like players need to, you know, be aware that, hey, you need to, now's the time to make that sacrifice, and then to be able to have more options down the line. I think, unfortunately, some of the older generation players weren't really thinking that far ahead. They're going to be a little bit stuck once.
I'll put it even further. Like, it gets to our heads where we think we're big shits, and then we forgot what got us to be big in that sense, right? And that's just the reality. Yes, it sucks to be away from your girlfriend, from your parents, from your friends, from everything that you know.
Yeah.
But you have to trade off. Like, we're talking about the 0.001% of the best CS players in the world. If you want to be better than the 0.001, you're going to have to do something more than him. Be it be more efficient, or invest more time, or you're going to have to find some way, right? And the way that I see more frequently replicated is who dedicates themselves more. It's, if you want to be the best, you're going to have to sacrifice more than the rest.
It all sucks, but it's also pretty fucking awesome to lift a trophy in the Lanxess, right?
That's
win Cologne and win a major, right? I mean, for me, this was the wildest thing that I realized, because I have a nice little relationship with Furia, right? And that whole team. And to realize that Serato doesn't know the feeling of lifting a trophy. But they've never won even like, you know, a DreamHack Open or an ESL Challenger.
Is that real? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I had to look it up when I was like getting ready to do some criticism, constructive criticism about Furia and some of their decision. I'm like, they surely must have, like, they have won something. They did win something like online during COVID, like an NA Pro League, I think, or something like that. But even, you know, a smaller LAN tournament, they've never lifted a trophy. So like a player like Serato, who's been, you know, a top 10 player the last couple of years, doesn't know that feeling. So it just tells you how hard it can be to get to that point.
It is. And sometimes there's a story that's not as well known. It's known in Brazil, but it's not well known from the past, which is Fur almost quit Counter-Strike before they traveled to the US. And both Pro Gaming TD and Kaboom had merged to make that team that they wanted, whatever. And half of the team was like, no, we're not going to go to the United States. And first said, if we don't go to the United States, I'm quitting. It's like as simple as that. We have to go if we want to be the best. We have to make the sacrifice. And he basically got everyone on board to do it. And the rest became history, right? So he knew that, yes, it wasn't the easiest route for him, but the sacrifice that he did. And that's when you see him on camera crying. That, like, you think he didn't lose friends, or he didn't lose the opportunity to girlfriends, or time spent with loved ones, or even potential business opportunities that maybe he would have had differently. You never know what's going to happen to the other side. But at that moment, it's what I realized. So when you lift a trophy, I think as a competitor that truly loves to compete, that has to be not only your goal, but your inspiration, because you will have to sacrifice everything else. But there will be a payoff if you do it, right?
Yeah.
Like, and for that moment, I think you've seen it, you've done it. There's nothing like it. There really is nothing like it. It's like the happiest memories in my life. Top 3 moments come back to all those good moments.
Absolutely. Tell me a little bit about who do you think your biggest competitors are going to be, like some of the other teams out there. Obviously, there's been a lot of changes. Some probably at this point not even done yet, or at the very least public. So
I don't know about FaZe, but because Russ is leaving them, but yeah, I think probably FaZe is going to be a tough opponent, probably. A team that I don't see like a lot of people talking about is VP. I watching a lot of demos, like the way they play, they are playing really smart, and that's really cool to watch. And I don't know, like probably Cloud9 is playing great lately.
You still have faith in Cloud9?
Yeah, I don't know. Like they can play good CS.
What about Mouse?
Mouse as well.
They're a team that like people don't really know. They're young and
they're
slept on.
I slept on them right now, but yeah, Mouse is pretty good also. And they are young players, and like all that we talked about right now, I think they had like young players that are really passionate about it and willing to sacrifice something.
Zews, what do you think?
I think it's too early to tell with the CS2 meta. I will just mirror the answers here, because those are the teams that are top. I do think Cloud9 actually might be a good team. Even like to my head, it makes sense that if Simple is not a Navi, that would be the team that he goes, right? So if that becomes concrete, then they'll have a solid opera on that team as well. And with Boomich, that could work. But FaZe, Mouse, even Vitality is doing amazingly. Like those teams to me are the obvious answers, but complexity. They're doing extremely well right now, and people are forgetting. And I think that's because, as he said, the new nerds, right? The better nerds right now, they're getting the most. They had all kinds of blowing up smoke from on top of Monster where you don't take damage on top of it, or top banana, something like that. And those are just the early glimpses we're getting at the new CS2 meta. So those are the obvious ones for, let's say, the first 6 months to a year.
True.
After that, I don't know who's going to be the best. I hopefully Liquid. I'll say that, right? But I think that we have to look at it like, for Liquid's point of view, or for me as a coach, everyone's an opponent, because as much as on paper is there's a lot of like Cadian's coming back to lead an international roster. Zeus is coming from 2.5 years. This kid has barely started. Like everyone's already going. Russ is coming out from a team that's winning everything. Was it Russ, or was it like Yakinder is no longer an IGL? Everything in NAF is NAF.
Which is a good thing,
right? So there's a lot of question marks. So I can't think of who's going to be everyone's our toughest opponent right now. The biggest opponent is ourselves, not letting us think that we're hot shits right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also Complexity doing God's work with Floppy, and Elige nerding out and finding all the little things to send feedback to Valve to fix things. But yeah, I guess something that I probably should have opened up with is kind of, why are you guys even here? To begin with, it's just the two of you, right? It's not the whole...
Because you're a great friend.
You have a massive facility, man, in Netherlands, which is awesome.
This is a bit of a technicality thing, right? Because for those who don't know, when you're traveling to Europe, you have a limited number of visa days that you can stay. And so Serbia is not in the European Union, so it falls off of that. So for us, with our hectic schedule and the predictions that we have at Liquid, if we were to just stay at the AWTF in the Netherlands, we'd by the third month be done with our visa days and we'd be screwed for the year. Yep. So Janko was super nice to help us out here. And even I, like, when being slept, this place just isn't marketed enough or done enough, is the truth, because he's like, oh,
I'll work on that.
Yeah. I was looking at apartments here in Serbia, as many of the teams are doing it right now, right? I heard that most of the Cloud9 guys are here. I know that Nico's here, maybe Ilya's coming and things like that. And so I'm like, oh, can you help me look at apartments? And you were helping me out. So with Juric, and then we couldn't get it done because I was in Brazil looking at apartments. And Janko's like, oh, we have the bootcamp place. I don't think anyone's going to be there. Let me help you out with this. And we came here, and it's not just marketing, guys. It's really fucking good.
It's amazing.
The PCs are 3080, like no 4080. Sorry, I don't want to even kill it. 3900K water cooled as it's here. They're beautiful and everything works, and internet's good, and we have rooms to sleep in, like a good quality of life thing. So we wound up here out of, again, one of the things that fell on my lap, and we couldn't be. I'll let him talk about it, because it sounds like
we were talking about it.
I want to hear about the CS from it.
We were talking about it like in a couple of minutes ago. Like, we travel a lot and go to hotels like pretty frequently, and being here, it doesn't feel like a hotel. Like, it's an apartment, and then you have your training room, and it feels like home. You know, it's just cozy, and you just have to just work. That's our main, like, the thing you have to focus here is just work. Play CS. That's, I think every player wants it, and it's the best bootcamp that I ever had. It's no secret about that, I think.
It's okay, it's not. You don't have to.
And yeah, it's just amazing.
On top of that, I saw a place that delivers
Brazilian food.
Yeah. Dude, I didn't even know about that place. Now I have to put it on
and it's actually pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. It's actually pretty decent. So we're
almost
happy
as
here.
good as the place I took you.
No, we can't because it's just Brazilian snacks. I will say that.
Yeah, okay.
It's like Brazilian. It's not the full meal.
There is no stuff like that.
Yeah, but one thing that I will surprise me here positive, not only was like the PCs, the 360 hertz monitor thing, but the ping is actually good. That's one of the things that, unfortunately, a lot of teams, at least previous experience that we had, is trying to find good places with ping, that be it from an apartment or from a bootcamp place, because it's not as common as I thought to have fiber optic internet like in all of Europe. There's a lot of places that do, but you have to know which neighborhood and which...
Well, a little bit of it is also like the networking side of things, which I know nothing about, but we hired some people who knew a lot about it. So that stuff has also been handled with like special care, and the backup links and the routers, all of that stuff. It's not like, you get a crazy PC and then you sort of skimp on some of that other stuff. I think the goal was really to make it so that everything is like top of the line. You don't have to,
and it really is. Like we
even
see
the chair, like
chairs are even the chairs.
Yeah.
But like
Those
Malta
are ping,
has
yeah.
70 ping. Like we know that a lot of Brazilians are going to Portugal and Spain and
Yeah.
50, 60, like that's not good, especially in CS2 right now. For
Yeah,
real,
true,
like
man.
CS2 is not ping friendly right now. CS:GO is actually pretty decent for
Yeah,
it.
it was okay.
But right here, we've had zero problems with it. So for real, again, thank you for it. But it's actually really good. I recommend it to everyone.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, you guys are welcome. Thank you for having this chat. I hope, skullz, this is your first
Podcast
experience,
ever, yeah.
right? I hope it wasn't too painful. It will only go downhill
fun.
from here. Yeah, everyone will be more harsh, you know. I'm too easy, but yeah. Thank you guys. Thanks for coming and good luck with Team Liquid. I'm looking
Thanks for
forward
having
to
me.
watching you
Yes.
guys play. I'm excited. I'm excited about this guy.
Yeah, this guy, hard carrying people on faces that we're seeing.
Nah, I'm just doing my thing.
All right. Thanks, guys.